Just as I said early on, when they asked me, how'd you get into comedy? I say I backed into it. Same way with acting. I like to think I backed into it. Meaning, when I began to be seen by casting people who saw me on little vignette things on the variety shows, they go, "Oh, that's different. What's his name again? Pat what? Oh, Pat. Okay, yeah. But he looks Japanese. He's got an Italian name. I don't know. Maybe he's really Italian. He had an eye job. I don't know. But he's got a great face. They could casting people are good at this. They see stuff that great with great potential to go in different places. So what had happened was my first agent, acting agent, was in commercials. Now I'm doing Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I'm doing Hush Puppies, and I'm doing all these little things for the camera for 1 minute spots, and it in itself another kind of discipline because you have to be very precise and be time conscious and all of that. And from those things, people said, "Gee, he might be." And I had known Bill Cosby, or not personally well, but from years before in the stand-up comedy world. Now he gets his very first show, and somewhere along the line, a casting person says, "It might be different if the tree surgeon was played by Pat Morita." "Oh yeah, Pat, the comic, but can he act?" "I don't know. Let's bring him out for a reading. Let's see if what he does." So little roles like that in my Green Acres stuff, and uh, I mentioned it early on, Love American Style, and eventually the mashes, the more meaningful kind of roles. Uh, in terms of a lot of things to say. In the beginning, you got a line or two. The Bob Newhart Show. I think I was a bartender. Hawaii Five O. Now there's a whole nother place because that's a detective action more oriented. Whereas sitcoms are sitcoms, but that's a whole nother bag. Live audience. So I'm in this whole during that era for me in this whole learning process. So while unfortunately on the one hand I may not have had much uh, school training like actor studio and that sort of thing, I got a whole heck of a lot of training on the job, watching others work and absorbing the problems of crews and putting it together, and directors, and so I got a broader, more appreciative perspective, I think, of how we do movies and television. It's called the cattle call, and every one of a type, a type. I want female 30, I want male 50, dun, 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 dun. I want a kid, teenage type. Everybody goes out in the cattle call, and those were the days when I would read like everybody else would read. And I don't know, somebody saw something, said, we haven't tried Pat in a role like this before. It was Colonel Park on MASH was really my first serious role within the spectrum of a so-called comedy show, right? It was straight ahead acting. It wasn't goofy stuff. You had to be a real person, and I won out over who knows how many. Um, the guys were a joy to work with. Alan Alda and Stevenson, and see, no, I think he was gone by then. I forget. My memory fails me. I've done so many wonderful vignette role things over the years that I could only be happy for what I've been able to do. I've lost out on my share too. I love doing Love American Style mostly because it was comedy. There were these, again, sketch things, not quite unlike variety show sketch comedy, just not as broad. And here again, it was pretty much like Love American Style, and I mean, sorry, like Love Boat, Love Boat and Love American Style were sort of in the same genre of comedic work. But what I loved about it was every time I got on, I got to play a different character. I got to play a bellman. I got to play an inept attorney, or someone qualified for to be instead of being an intern, he belonged in the hospital for the mentally challenged. All right. Or one of my favorites was I got to play a Chinese herb master. It was me and Vanessa Redgrave, and it was just wonderful. Just two people. I forget what the story was all about, but these are all little wonderful challenges that actually laid the foundation. I mentioned early on about crossing paths with. I think Gary Marshall was at that time, quote unquote, only a writer. And Jerry Paris was writing. I think Jerry Belson was directing. So I it was sort of my first time crossing paths with these folks.